You are listening to the Unusually Well-Informed podcast.
Welcome to the Unusually Well-Informed podcast. I'm your host, Tim Hampton. My unusually well-informed guest today is Tchernikovsky. Kira is co-founder of Customerization, a business technology consulting firm that helps small and medium-sized businesses attract and delight customers. Today, Kira and I are going to discuss the digital tools that entrepreneurs can use to grow their impact and their revenue. Kira, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. That's
My
fun.
pleasure. So, looking at your life's journey, you've gone from Russia to Israel to Canada. What prompted those changes, and what have you learned about yourself and the world along the way?
Oh, that's a heavy lifting question from the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, and thanks for starting with that. I think it's just who I am. I figured I love changes. Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid of changes. I support them and I call for them. I urge myself to change something, definitely for the better. So I moved from Russia to Israel because of the Zionist thoughts right after the university. In Israel, I became actually quite a different person from Russian Nordic character, became very open to feedback, giving feedback, working as a team. So that was amazing. I remember my mom coming from Russia to visit me a year after I went to Israel, and she was like, "Where did all my effort go? You're sitting in torn jeans on the pavement." And I'm like, yes, and it can be like that. Yeah. So everything is possible. And then after 16 years in Israel, we moved here to Toronto with my family, just to show our kids more diversity, so that they also know what's even possible in this world. And I stay a multicultural person. I think it helps across everything: work, consultancy, clients, family, friends, everything.
Definitely. Wonderful. So speaking of change, I mean, one of the things that you do in your career is help people make changes for the better. And your career has taken you from search engine marketing, which is SEM, to marketing, to customer relationship management, which strikes me as not only are you changing your work, but you're expanding it each time.
Correct.
So what's your thinking there? Are you just excited about growing what you do and the impact you make?
Yes, on the one hand. On the other hand, professionally, where I find fulfillment is seeing results. And the more results you see and the faster you see them, the more satisfying it is. So yes, when one facility, let's say search engine marketing, I get to the next one when the incremental change of like becoming better in your niche, I don't see the relevancy anymore. So I expand into something else and hopefully that's relevant. So I think when I exhausted my career growth in the marketing field, I decided to get into the more business-oriented, business-wide avenue. And that just because of my occupation, my history, people I'm dealing with, it eventually led not only to marketing automation, but also to business automation. Because small, medium businesses, they deal with business and not only marketing, not only sales day to day. And I think I was quite able with all my experience to, go up a bit and ask those questions and find the right solutions. So I'm still mastering that, absolutely. But I can see how the results span across all teams, the whole organization.
So the company you co-founded is called Customerization, and I presume that a lot of the work that you do there is related to customer relationship management. So how did you find yourself deciding to make your own business as opposed to working somewhere that existed already?
Oh, tadam! This is touchy-feely, I would say, and probably relevant for many people who went into entrepreneurship path. Here in Canada, I was happily working for HSBC Bank Canada on the B2B marketing team. Amazing team, relatively small for the size of the business, touching like everything from events to social media to strategic planning to product marketing. Amazing, learned a new thing, which was product marketing. And then COVID hit. So everything pretty much slowed down as everywhere. And I already told that if I don't see results, I kind of don't feel fulfilled. Yeah. Why are we coming here, actually, if we are not helping too many people? And that's where I was thinking what else I can be doing. And I went and asked for feedback from people whom I worked with at HSBC, my family, my friends. What is that I'm good at? And a lot of people said, you can put the dots together, like build the puzzle. You're asking good questions. You are a go-getter, like you also understand what people are telling you, and you are quite positive, so you like to talk, so probably you'll be fine talking to many people, like more people. And that somehow eventually led me to trying to build my own gig. And everybody knows that marketing people are worst at selling marketing services. We cannot sell ourselves, marketing people. And that's where I decided, hey, if I know marketing conversations come up all the time, but I also understand in business technology, why don't I combine these skills with other people? And I would use my marketing, my facilitation, my strategic skills to sell the technology and approach and technology roadmap that someone else will implement. And they're great in that. So that's how it came together. I am relatively in the beginning of that path, and I anticipate in the future expand into additional services so that, there is one consultancy field for small, medium businesses in Canada who can get access now to that expert knowledge that probably a few years ago they wouldn't have gotten. They would have had to pay a lot of money for, strategic consultancy. And I hope that we'll be able to close this gap.
Excellent. So you've sort of touched on another theme there, and that is you are a co-founder. So it sounds like you found a really good way to match your skills to one other or more than one other person. So how do you divide the workload? How did you find that you had complementary skills?
So it's actually easy. For me, it was clear that I would take care of marketing and sales or business development. I'm not a great salesperson, but I like to talk. So I figured I'll try that. Maybe that will work out. I am good at strategy and doing stuff to a specific point. When it's a lot of diagrams and heavy files and a lot of technological data, that's not me. So when I have the person who is great in delivery, who is great in building the whole solution end to end, and there is also a team who specializes in what they're good at, developers, consultants, analysts. So that was good. And in addition, somehow, I don't know how the universe makes that happen. I met a great project manager, like amazing. That's a great skill. And it's related to certifications, but you have to understand what you are doing to manage the project. And the cybersecurity person, because from HSBC, I remember that's a hit.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand good enough in what they're doing. I understand what value it brings, especially when stitched together. So that's how the division goes.
And so let's talk a little bit about what customer relationship management is, because I think it's one of those terms that almost everybody has a different definition in their mind of it, if they've thought about it at all. it encompasses, or at least the way you describe it on your website, it encompasses many of the functions within a company. So you got marketing, sales, and service, the ways you interact with your customer. Can you expand on that? What's your definition of a CRM?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I actually did a presentation like lately, a week ago. I meant at the Toronto Regional Board of Trade. I explained about digital marketing and CRM, customer relationship management platforms, technology agnostic, and how they actually help enhance sales and revenues. And you're right, people are confusing what it is, confusing that with operational side of the business, but it's actually the technology that helps companies focus on the customer. It doesn't matter if it's a B2B customer or B2C customer, whatever it is. So I would say that it's just the tool that brings together all the revenue generating functions of the organization. Everybody is using that tool, and if built right, it provides visibility across the organization. Everybody who needs to have access to customer details to the extent they need to enhance customer experience, sell more, prevent customer churn. That's what the tool does. Again, it's only as good as it's constructed, as it's built, as it's implemented, so that it reflects how the business works and not flexes business processes of specific business for some how-tos or best practices of the industry. It has to be relevant. It has to be a fit.
So that's interesting, because one of the things when I research CRMs, one of the stories that comes up is they can fail because people fail to come up with a strategy which they want to implement in the CRM. So they install the CRM and it's just flashing 12 like an old VCR, and they don't know what to do with it. Is that part of what you do, is helping them figure out what they can do with this tool?
Absolutely. So I have written a couple of articles even about that. And I always bring Simon Sinek in, like, what's the relationship? Start with why. Right. Basically, start with why, try to understand why you are bringing that tool, the CRM, into your organization, what it needs to do, what goals it needs to achieve. And honestly, after close to a year of mentoring at Board of Trade and talking one-on-one to small businesses, big businesses across, Ontario and different verticals, different industries, I understand that business owners maybe don't really master that. It might be easier to ask for help, because people like us would come and would ask the questions that gather kind of requirements, but still stay at the value level. Because many projects fail even because of total not fit of the system they choose to their organization. If they choose, and I'm trying to be technology agnostic, they choose the technology which is like too sophisticated, too big for a small organization, they hardly use it at all, and they spend a lot of resources and money on just maintaining that system, and they get nervous. They would love to spend time talking to prospects, talking to customers, and instead of that, they spend time on data entry. Start small, patch the gap, and then see how it expands. Like nowadays, there are technologies that go beyond CRM. You can do one technology to enable business flows, business processes across your organization. And if you're stuck, just ask for help.
So you raised an interesting point there, that the CRM has to be shaped to the organization. But I would challenge that a little bit, because I've been involved in projects where they have shaped something so much to their own process that they've almost poured concrete around it, and they can't change their process. And it turns out their process is crazy. And so how do you balance that? How do you say, well, I've helped people in this vertical several times and they don't do it this way? There's an easier approach. How do you work with clients to sort of shape that strategy? Yeah,
that's a great point as well. And I've even talked to people whose business is designing super custom CRMs like building those from scratch. My question was like, why there is such a huge market of those tools? And they have a point. They want all the stakeholders in the organization be happy with the processes, and the processes be custom. I agree that in this environment, when everything is changing, you need to be able to change your processes. And the system needs to be able to support that. It needs to be flexible enough and easy to integrate with all the rest. So here is where the experience and facilitation skills come into play. And I consider this being one of our company's differentiators. So we would come and discuss with the client, with the prospect, their challenges, what they have been using now. I know everybody's doing that, but we would come with best practices, and we would ask questions that might be dive a bit deeper, like go under the surface, and people will tell us some backstories, some legacy things that usually they wouldn't tell to a technological provider. So that's the only way, I believe, how we can help construct those systems right, and prioritize specific features that we can build in or customize within 2 weeks, month time, so that they are able to use the system. And we try to work kind of agile. Like agile is a too big term for small medium. Yeah. So like, I mean is, hey, we do this on the go, analyze what they're doing right now, what they're happy with what they are not happy with, implement stuff, try that out, get feedback, adjust a bit, finish up. But you need to like plan up front. You need to help clients unlock that why. And I think it only comes with experience, with best practices in industries, and like, thanks God we have that experience. So facilitation, discovery.
So let's talk a little bit more nitty gritty, because I think, some people may still not be quite seeing what CRM is. And of course, if we only look at one piece, then you're missing the big picture. But let's start at one small piece and look at the marketing that is built into CRM. And one of the important things, I believe anyway, what I've come to understand, maybe it's not true, but you can correct me, but segmentation, figuring out the different buckets that your potential clients and your existing clients fall into, what their value, what they appreciate in terms of value is, and who's making you the most money, and that kind of thing. Is how does segmentation fit into a CRM?
So that's actually the core of the CRM, because CRM is 360 view of the customer, and customer life cycle progresses. They're becoming a paying and recurring customer from the prospect. So the data that CRM has on that customer enriches all the time. And segmentation is something that can help marketing bring more clients, audiences alike. It will help sales sell in a specific way, because they have done that before based on a specific customer profile. And it will help the service team to cross-reference solutions that they have given before. So question number one, where CRM meets marketing or marketing automation tools, because there is huge confusion, I think, in the market between what full functional CRM is for and marketing automation that has some CRM features. Right. So I always say, for digital marketing, go first to your CRM, pull the data from CRM, even if it's not yet segmented. This is the place that knows your customers. So from there, you can, do any analysis you want to start segmenting your client base according to different criteria. And of course, you would love to know where your customers are, what they buy, what is the profile that's coming back and buying more, why they are doing that. Did they have any challenges and sent opened tickets to your service team. All this helps to segment your customer base. So again, CRM is the core knowledge about your clients, and every department, every team can pull a specific portion of this information to feed into their work. So marketing would know whom to target for enriching the customer base, expanding customer base, where, why, how, what's the message. So that's more or less about segmentation. Again, some CRMs have this partial marketing capability to run campaigns even within CRM, from the CRM, so sending mails to prospects and tracking ROI. Many CRMs, like most CRMs, have to be able to easily integrate with marketing automation tools or email marketing tools, like everybody knows MailChimp, for example. Yeah, where hot leads from MailChimp would go into the CRM and become more available for sales to follow up one-on-one, and vice versa. Your segmented customer base from the CRM would go to MailChimp to send coupon campaigns or happy holidays campaigns in a specific way that fits that customer profile. So I hope that explains more or less.
Yeah. So an example might be that Netflix keeps telling me I haven't finished that movie yet because they want me to be engaged and continue my subscription, right? They don't want me to lapse as a customer. If I start thinking it's not useful, I might drop because I'm sure they're aware of how much I watch and how much I don't. And so that's probably what's going on in the background, is some sort of customer relationship management.
Yeah, and I think Netflix is a quite a sophisticated or advanced example with maybe artificial intelligence and stuff like that. But let's take a mortgage broker.
Sure.
If they have built the system really well, so they would actually know when the renewal is coming up. So there would be either a trigger or a reminder or even automated process of sending out emails to those customers.
Right.
And not many people do that. Not many businesses do that. And that's lost opportunity. That's lost revenue.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great example. So one of the other advantages of having a CRM is it keeps you organized, and it can even simplify the life of your customer. And one of the examples is looping. Like I contact a department and they say, go over there. And then they say, go over here. And I wind up stuck with the same problem. How can CRM tackle that?
Yeah. So we need to come back to the proper architecture of CRM. And like I say, architecture, it's not that complicated. It is just, whiteboarding your processes, your sales process, your operational processes, whatever you do, because then you would mirror those processes into the CRM. Okay. So then your CRM would be, what would we call it? Like a unified process master for everybody.
Right.
And that's it.
This is, so back in 1988, a character by the name of Harvey Mackay wrote a book, How to Swim with Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive.
Oh.
And it caught my eye in the library. And it's the first sort of business book I ever read because of the title. And it was the first book that made me think that, because I have an engineer's training, right? And an engineer's mind. So I don't really think in terms of entrepreneurship or whatever. It was the first entrepreneurial book. And it was written by a guy who made himself very successful just selling envelopes. He had an envelope factory. And he had an instrument called the Mackay 66. And it was 66 questions that he would try to answer for all of his clients so that he would know what what sports tickets to get them, or when to say happy birthday, or all that kind of thing. And so what he was describing was kind of a pre-computer CRM. I mean, it didn't encompass everything the CRM does, but it definitely a way of tracking what you know about your customer and how to interact with them. So I guess one of my Mike, so I don't know if you've heard of that before, but it's kind of a fun book to read. It's all about how you create a human connection with people. But the reason I bring up the McKay 66 is I'm sure that when you describe what CRM means to potential clients, they're like, "Oh, we already have that." And then you find out they have Excel spreadsheets and they have filing cabinets full of information on their clients. How do you react to that? Because a lot of what you're making possible and what you're driving towards is a digitization strategy.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
How does that work? So how do you connect with a client on that?
That's basically a business development question, because where I find the best connection is people who can articulate their challenge, their problem, and therefore they are open for finding, or at least looking for, a solution. It is indeed difficult to educate about CRM from scratch. It's a boring topic. We need to talk about the value all the time. So again, I wouldn't talk tools. So all my marketing campaigns, warming campaigns, are talking about challenges. Are your teams desynchronized? Are your processes all crap? Everything is broken. Excel spreadsheets, yes, that's something we talk about all the time. Yeah. And I even thought of making a marketing campaign like, what color is your notebook? Because some people use red notebooks and some white. These are real customer examples that I know. So again, talking value and asking questions around challenges, that's the only way to go for me. And then not giving out too much of what CRM can do, because CRM can do so much that it becomes too sophisticated.
Right.
People prefer to stay where they are because they cannot digest all that information. It's not their specialty. So this is what I'm learning to do as well, to feed just the necessary information so that they go, hey, that really solves my current problems and the price is okay. Right. So probably that's a fit. And that's challenging indeed. I try not to talk tools as tools, because I myself was afraid of the term digital transformation. It was like a beast. So now I'm trying not to do with my prospects, my clients.
Yeah, it is a daunting term. It's like, we're going to transform everything. What?
Change everything. Yeah. Pay a lot of money.
Yeah. Transform my bank account. Exactly. Yeah. So when somebody feels like that they have a lot of information about their customers already, but the problem is, for example, you're in the field and you don't have access to it. You know, there are advantages to having it all digitally available. What tends to be the tipping point for potential customers to go, okay, it's time for us to look seriously at a CRM? What usually motivates them?
From what I see, actually a few triggers. First, the company is in a growth mode. So they can be either hiring salespeople, like going from owner sales to really more structured sales team. And then processes need to be formalized. Data information about prospects needs to be maintained. What if people start leaving? Like, what do we do about that? And then all the sales and the owners need to have visibility into the pipeline so that they can, pay those salaries because they're hitting their goals. How would you know that? Like in Excel. So that's the time to move on. The other trigger would be, again, when the customer base is growing and you forget stuff. You forget to follow up. You forget about those renewals. You forget to call them when they ask you to call in 2 weeks after she is coming back from the vacation or a holiday. So the need of that personal assistant, a smart one, pops up. And then because we're doing more sophisticated projects, not only CRM, but some more systems touching upon different parts of the organization. When there is duplication of processes, there is duplication of processes across teams, and they just don't understand why it happens. They understand they're using different technologies for different parts of the business, and they need to connect it all. And at that situation, they would have usually researched something about like business processes or end-to-end technology or digital transformation for small businesses, and they would know the terms. So those would be the triggers.
So you mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to get a little bit deeper into it. It's this idea of a modular approach that you can crawl, walk, then run. You can keep adding on features as you realize you need them. For example, I have a KitchenAid stand mixer that I basically only use to make dough for pizza, right? But if I wanted to, I could make sausage with it. I could shred cheese with it. I just got to buy the right attachment. It can keep growing. It's powerful, but maybe I don't want to think about all that when I buy the original.
Well, that's a great analogy. Yeah, I'll use that as well.
Please. So how does CRM come modular? Like what is the stand mixer and what are the attachments?
Yeah, the core of the CRM, and that can be implemented like in a couple of weeks. Like it doesn't have to be problematic. It's mostly contact and lead management. What it means, your CRM starts serving as the ultimate unified repository of customer data. So you move information there from Excel, from notebooks, from all the sources. And you automate 3 to 5 main business processes related to converting your lead to a paying customer. And it really depends who you are, what you do.
Right.
But that would be that personal assistant across a few basic processes. And then it would be definitely some kind of reporting. Current CRMs have great reporting capabilities because not everybody wants to go and dig into the data, into the system every day. But when you have dashboards and reports, you can definitely see where you stand and whether that why you implemented the CRM for is fulfilled. And of course, connectivity with the email provider, so that all the correspondence, all the communication with your clients, customers, prospects is kept in the CRM. So repository of your customer data, a few main business processes, communications recorded, and reporting. I would say that is the core. And that's not frightening, and that's really helpful. And then we start with, features that are related to customer service, features that are related to integrations with other systems, let's say operational systems, because CRM doesn't keep all the information about the whole business in it, but it pulls just some levels of data that help to accomplish that 360 customer view. And there, the sky's the limit already.
Right. So I'm imagining that one of the potential, if not something you would consider to be part of the CRM, but something you'd want to connect to your CRM, if you were a manufacturer, you'd want the orders to go straight through, right? And you'd want to connect for that reason. So you're building things just in time.
So that's a good example, because manufacturers usually have a strong ERP system or some operational system. And that's not the function of CRM, because that's focused on your warehouse, on your orders, on your stocks. And CRM is focused on the customer. So they kind of supplement each other, and you would need to connect one to the other. And again, understand where they're connected and why. So maybe at the second that the order is signed up, that goes into the ERP system. And on the other hand, when you have a customer inquiry or you want to upsell, cross-sell, then your CRM pulls some kind of information from the ERP so that the salesperson has all the necessary information to upsell and cross-sell. But that would be, as we said, a more advanced stage, because you probably with some external help, would need to understand what information needs to go here and there. Where is that border that divides between the systems and how they connect, and how often you need to exchange that information, and all that jazz.
So you when you talked about your journey into being an entrepreneur, you connected it to what's going on in the world today, which is COVID, right? COVID affected your banking business, and so you looked for an opportunity elsewhere, something more dynamic. I wonder if it seems to me possible that CRM is a tool that supports companies working with all the turmoil they're in. Like 1 minute you're working here, 1 minute you're working from home. Where are all the files? Where's all the information? How do I keep track of everything? Do you find that is a motivator for some people adopting CRM right now?
It is definitely a motivator. And the fact that you can have CRM on your mobile as well,
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool. Then the other motivator would be the digital competition is growing so much, and your salespeople, they have to have information on top of their fingers.
Right.
And I even borrowed some knowledge from salespeople. Turns out that external sales and internal sales use CRM differently. So external sales, outbound sales, who are on their feet the whole day,
Mm-hmm.
they just need something very comfortable to tap in some basic information. And then like the farmers, the developers would, research the account a bit more and add up the data, enrich the account. But totally, remote working is the trigger for CRM, but it's also the trigger for, again, let's call it digital transformation, but connecting additional applications to that CRM or the whole technological stack, be it, Zoom or other remote working tools, project management, sprint management, agile tools, webinar tools, and analytics as well. Yeah. So absolutely. And I think CRM is usually like maybe the trigger to tap into that digital transformation because of COVID, but it grows bigger than that.
Right. So you are, one of the tools you roll out is by Zoho Corporation.
Yes.
And if I understand correctly, they are sort of like CRM themselves in that they have multiple services. Some are core, some are sort of around the perimeter. Can you talk about how you work with them and what they contribute to the clients that you serve?
Yeah, absolutely. So Zoho is a well-known company. They created multiple, like over 50, it's called software applications for businesses around the world. So it's like a puzzle. You can choose what you need right now, implement it, and all the applications are pre-integrated. So the minute you need something else, you just add it up. So we implement those systems again when businesses want to use multiple applications. They are priced under one umbrella, which makes it very, very competitive.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons we chose to work with this specific system, because we don't even call it CRM. It's platform. It's a business technology platform. You can run your whole business on it, again, if constructed well. And it's economically affordable. Like it might not have all the features in the world, but no one has them. So that's a good system. So Zoho is a company, and it works with authorized partners, agencies like us and many others who actually help clients identify what applications they need to use for their specific business, especially if they want to go beyond CRM, and how to implement that, because usually those businesses would not have an IT in-house, or even if they had, it wouldn't be specializing in Zoho. It's not yet big enough. So we would come and help. And again, people ask us a lot of questions about this platform approach because I think it's disruptive. It's new, especially for, non-corporates. It hasn't been available before. So it's democratizing access to technology. That's why we chose to do that.
Right. So let's return a little bit to the functionality of CRM and what it's like to have a CRM in your company. A couple of the features that seem really appealing are dashboards and alerts. Yeah. So talk about what they do and when you use one over the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I have an article about that because what we do is people ask us questions and we write articles answering those so that more people would know that. Yeah, there are two schools, I would say, alerts versus dashboards. So alerts is like a calendar pop-up, calendar reminder that you need to calendarize in your CRM. For example, you are talking to a prospect and you collect information about them and you need to follow up. So instead of putting a reminder in your Outlook calendar, you do that in the CRM, and that's attached to the specific name of your prospect, of your customer, and you would update that information consequently. So when you have a limited amount of follow-ups, pop-ups are nice. Like what happens to me sometimes with those reminders, if I'm in between something, I would just close it off. I would not update the date, like it will slip. I really believe in dashboards, and dashboards are basically reports that you can build as you wish according to what you need to accomplish. And I always advise to start the day with those dashboards. So a salesperson goes into the CRM dashboard and they see whom they need to follow up, what's the information around that, whom they need to send some specific materials. And you just, block half an hour for those follow-ups, and then you're done for the day. So I am advocating for the dashboards, but you need to invest a bit of the time to understand what information needs to be there and what is the first screen you see in the morning when you get into your CRM.
So a dashboard, if you're familiar with Excel, which I think a lot of people are, you can have multiple tabs in your spreadsheet. But you can also have one page that gathers information from the other pages, and that's is that similar to how you would design a dashboard to sort of keep?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The simplest, default dashboards are like tables in Excel, but just much smarter. And you can definitely color code, and you would see, the dates of the follow-ups. Those which you missed would be in red, and those that are coming up would be in green. And you can control those columns. So you don't need to cut and paste those. You would just go into the settings and say, I want to see these fields every day, sorted according to this order, whatever you want. And you have additional filters to even sub-filter your dashboard every day. And moreover, if you are using analytics, more advanced capabilities, you can definitely build graphs just to see whether you are on trend, what the general numbers are. That's helpful as well.
One of the things that you would hope can be popping out of a CRM is customers with high lifetime value, high value customers. How does a CRM expose where to focus your efforts?
So this would be related again to design of your CRM and then design of your reports. So when you build the CRM, you can include different fields that characterize your prospect. You can, and we usually recommend to do that, to define the probability of deal closing. For example, you have different tiers for that, and then you can sort according to that. For example, you can define the closing date and their expected revenue. So definitely you would be able to pull those numbers. And again, if you are going to reporting, you can do even dynamic reporting and say hey, I want to focus on those who are more probable to close up, so I'll follow up with those people. But I think it's really, you can look at the best practices in different industries, but it would be great to ask salespeople or other users of the system what is helpful for them.
Right.
And design those dashboards, those reports like that.
So one of the terms you hear in modern sales and marketing a lot is funnels, right? This idea that you start with maybe everybody on earth, and then you say how many people wear shoes and how many people wear stilettos and then how can we get their attention and how can we get them to get a coupon? So there's all these steps you take people through. I guess I have two questions. One, we can talk about, you're probably predicting this question, and that is, how does a CRM help with the funnel, or does it? But also, I'm wondering, in a modern era where we are pretty targeted all the time, how do you decide where marketing ends and sales begins? Because in my imagination, marketing is just telling everybody, and sales is twisting individual arms. But now we're being targeted all the way through. Where do you divide the line between sales and marketing?
It's becoming more and more blurred because some parts of marketing are becoming just fully automated. And in some cases, especially in the B2C world and in e-commerce, you don't need salespeople at all because the sale happens on the website.
Right.
So I think it's changing. The change is the name of the game. But generally, how the marketing funnel looks like, you start, as you said, from awareness, just to tell as many people, hopefully relevant people, that you are there with your product, with your service, with your brand. Then it goes into the interest stage where people say like, hey, like those folks have something interesting that might potentially solve my problem. So I will include that into my like 10 choices of different products. And then it goes into the consideration where they are more interested in specific features and maybe pricing of your product. So those people are kind of raising hands. They download your information, they go on your website, they might join your webinar, whatever it is. That is marketing. That is marketing that can be ran from different marketing automation tools or just manually, and you would track the performance in either marketing automation tools or in Google Analytics or some other tools. Where it connects with sales as teams is at the stage of what is called lead scoring. So you need to agree with your salespeople when this lead is hot enough for that individual handshake. For that, marketing people need to talk to salespeople, understand when that transition happens, because, it's the fight between marketing and sales. Marketing say, we gave you like 30 attendees for the webinar. Hey, why don't you sell that? And sales saying like, but they just listened to the webinar. They didn't download anything and they never showed any intent of buying. You gave the free webinar. Why wouldn't they take that? So you need to sit, marketing and salespeople, and understand what signals are good enough for the salespeople to start following. And lead scoring capability function is present in any marketing automation tool, or you can again do that manually, but that's hard. And when you have decided that the lead is hard enough, that goes into the CRM. So you can even you can change the terminology and call everything that's going on in marketing, let's say pre-lead. Right. And when it turns into the hot lead, it goes into the CRM and it becomes mostly the sales job to convert them.
So but the reason I'm smiling
is
you're reminding me of Glenn Ross. Do you know that movie? Okay, it's a classic movie, and it's got Alec Baldwin in it.
I'll watch it.
Okay, it's one of his best roles. My favorite of his is Hunt for Red October, which is about Russian submarines. So check that one out too. But in the movie, he goes into to basically harass the sales team who are complaining that the leads are all cold, and he's like, "They're not cold. You just got to work them harder." And he starts telling them that if you anyway, I won't spoil it for you, but you should check it out because it really is the dynamic between marketing and sales.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for
Yeah.
sure. And again, it's just the tools. So, I mean, when you agreed between marketing and sales, what is marketing qualified lead? And when it becomes the sales qualified lead, that's where the CRM kicks in and where the roles change.
Right.
So in the very advanced organizations, CRM has amazing dashboards with all the marketing information for those hot leads. So it's not just the name, but it's like what website pages they have visited, whether they attended webinars. So that's all in CRM, but it's at a very advanced stage. And it's important not to forget, as the sale progresses on the sales side and when the contract is signed, it's sales job to update marketing on the success. Even better if marketing has access to CRM, or at least some reports, because then the question of marketing attribution to sales success would be less painful.
Right. So I've only got a couple more questions. This has been fantastic. I really
hope it's helpful.
I've learned a lot about CRM. I appreciate it, actually, because it's one of those terms you hear a lot, and it's good to know what it means. So in your life, you've expanded from SEM to marketing to CRM. What is your next area of curiosity? Where do you see yourself broadening your set of skills?
I have a payments background. I am not good with like wealth management, but I have a lot of connections within fintech. So I think that's one of the most painful areas in the digital e-commerce business these days,
right,
alongside cybersecurity. So I think those two areas might be very helpful.
Sure. Well, when you say in the same breath payments and cybersecurity, it raises
it's so connected. Yeah,
it raises the question of blockchain. Is that something you're looking at as well?
Not really. That somehow is not. It feels sometimes that it is relevant either for like huge multinational organizations, because that's very sophisticated. So no, not at this stage. I think I'm walking away from everything that feels too much theoretical for me and people I work with, but it might change.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. And then finally, what are the kinds of projects you're looking for now?
So we are looking for growing organizations, and it doesn't really matter what industry they are at, who understand that they need to digitize their business end to end, basically.
And what is the typical size? Like how many people on the team? How much revenue? What is there a size that works for you?
Yeah, I think to make this implementation worthwhile and really impactful for organizations, it would be from 25 employees, I would say, when 5-10 need access to the system, so like representatives of each team, and so that the organization actually has those teams in place. And these organizations can be using multiple systems, one for bookings, one for maintaining customer data, one for marketing, one for invoicing, one for accounting, and they might wish to consolidate those systems into one so that it actually works all together and reduce the cost they're paying for all those multiple systems. We talk to a lot of clients like that. It might be frightening to leave those tools and go into something new, but when you hear how much people pay for like 8 different systems and still need to spend the whole day on extracting data and doing manipulations in Excel, that's not sustainable. So yeah, those organizations who know that doing everything in one system will really release their workforce for strategic business development, that's what we're looking for.
Terrific. Kira, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. And I hope we learned something and help others to become more open to change.
Absolutely. My guest today was Kira Tchernikovsky. A link to Kira's profile on LinkedIn and her company website will be in the show notes. My name is Tim Hampton, and you can reach me at tim@unusuallywellinformed.com. Thanks for listening. I hope you will subscribe and join me for the next show with another unusually well-informed leader in business and technology.
Thank you for listening to the Unusually Well-Informed podcast.
The opinions expressed by the host and guests on the Unusually Well-Informed podcast are their own and do not reflect that of their employer or any other affiliation.